Jackson, and welcome to the inaugural Breaking Bio Blitz. Traditionally, a Bio Blitz is when naturalists and scientists converge on an area for a day or a weekend and take a census of the biology at that area, recording all the different species and variations they can find in a short amount of time. Here at Breaking Bio, we try to introduce you to a wide array of biologists and their work, generally by talking to researchers who have been studying their systems for years or even decades already. However, there's a lot of exciting work being done in biology, and we want to give you a chance to hear about some of it from the people who are just beginning their careers. Breaking Bio Blitz will bring you short interviews with master's and PhD students who are full of fresh ideas and who will be making the discoveries you'll be reading about in the future. Think of it like our own quick census on the future of biology. This week, Tom Housley and I speak to Cynthia Malone about her work on oil palm plantations and wildlife conflicts in Cameroon.
My name is Cynthia Malone, and I'm a first-year master's student at Columbia University in the Conservation Biology program. And my thesis work will take me to southwest Cameroon this summer to look at human-wildlife conflict as it relates to industrial agriculture, specifically oil palm. So I'll be interviewing different villagers to get their opinion on how access to land and crop rating and crop damage has changed with the influx of oil palm, and also doing some participatory mapping to engage with village-level land use.
That sounds really interesting. So why is palm oil such an important part of the economy there?
Palm oil in Cameroon contributes to a substantial part of their revenue, their GDP, and it also it's huge in terms of subsistence. So people use it regularly as a cooking oil. They use it for soap. They also use the root of the palm oil tree as medicine. So it's huge. It's a huge contributor to the economy. But foreign direct investment through the World Bank has also situated oil palm as foreign oil palm from agribusiness companies as a substantial contributor to their poverty reduction strategy. So it's kind of multi-layered why palm oil is so important.
So what are alternative forms of income for people there? Obviously, if oil palm is a big thing for them to be involved in, then what else could they do instead?
I don't know if they should be doing something instead. The smallholder oil palm industry in Cameroon is really important, and it actually, as it is, there's more. I think addressing the oil palm problem needs to go with looking at the yield gap, so giving them more agricultural inputs, access to better fertilizer, things like that, so that they can increase their input rather than bringing in industrial companies to fix that problem.
So we should probably get back to what your research on here. So what kind of human wildlife impacts are we talking about here?
So typically, human wildlife conflict in Africa is mostly situated around crop rating and crop damage. And the most common instance reported of that is an elephant coming in and in a kind of once a year or once every couple of months and damaging between 60 to 90% of a farmer's crop, and that's huge. Depending on whether it's for subsistence or cash, it's still a huge setback for any farmer. But then there are also smaller instances of buffaloes and cane rats that kind of regularly come in and raid. But with access to land being diminished, that decreases their ability to deal with crop rating and crop damage for a lot of reasons. They're often not compensated for a crop rating or damage event, and with national parks being parts of national parks being actually allocated to oil palm concessions, they're more likely to encounter different forest species as well that will crop raid.
So what were you thinking of doing? So what is your project going to try and do? Because I assume you're not going to be looking at deterrence for all this. You're just looking at ways to record some of how this damage is occurring, right?
Yeah, so essentially I want to kind of analyze the spatial patterns of oil palm. I'll be looking at 3 different villages that are some distance away from an established government industrial oil palm plantation, and I want to create a model that will allow me to predict how instances of conflict measured by crop rating and crop damage will change. So I want to be able to input the oil palm to see how that will impact conflict. And ideally, this would contribute to conservation and government management strategies.
So what sort of management strategies are you anticipating going to be useful for this?
I think a lot of it has to do with just general enforcement of where oil palm concessions are going to go. There are already some standards for that with the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil. So oil palm companies that subscribe to that to achieve that certification shouldn't be planting in high conservation value areas. So that's one thing that just should be considered across the board. But my idea is that these companies are going to be coming in anyway, and it's unlikely that the poverty reduction strategy is going to change substantially anytime soon. So let's figure out what size and shape is manageable within a particular landscape to maintain corridors for elephants and other species within the realm of kind of their established practice. So I'm trying to be realistic, but also pragmatic as well.
So are you going to be looking at any other wildlife, or is it mainly the sort of large animals that are coming in and doing this crop raiding, or are you looking at conservation of some sort of smaller species that might be affected by palm oil plantations?
I'm not specifically looking at any set of species, because a huge problem when measuring human wildlife conflict is the difference between perception and actual crop damage. And I won't necessarily be analyzing that, but the significant problem is that people, when an elephant comes in and raids or damages a crop, they remember it. So it could have happened 2 years ago, but they'll report it on a questionnaire as being, elephants are the problem. And really, it's typically cane rats or buffaloes that are damaging crops on a regular basis, so we might want to deal with them. So I want to look at those variations to see what's the difference between perception and reality, and measure that across these different scales of oil palm to see whether there's a difference.
Huh. That sounds really cool. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time already. But I really want to thank you for speaking to us for Breaking Bio Blitz. Where can people follow along with your research? Do you have a website, or do you use Twitter or anything?
I'm hoping to set up a blog, so maybe I'll get the word out when I actually do that, as I'll be in the field this summer and hope to post some updates, so maybe I can let you guys know when I have one set up.
For sure. Awesome.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
Cool. Thank you.
If you or somebody you know is just starting out on the path to becoming a biologist and would like to join us on Breaking Bio Blitz, let us know by leaving a comment on our website, breakingbio.com, or by tweeting at us at BreakingBio. Thanks for listening.